Around Ficklin McLean. Welcome, WYLCOME. Now I've told you what the subjunctive means. And I find that you can't just tell something one thing and then boom, they understand it. So let's come at the subjunctive by comparing it with the indicative. So I'm just going to read, and of course, if I see something, examples or stories or whatever, otherwise I'll just basically stick what's on the card, because hopefully the cards can speak for themselves or allow me to speak for them, but I don't have to go into elaborate detail. But if I do, I do. So we're looking at the subjunctive versus the indicative mood. First of all, the subjunctive is not a tense. Remember, we talked about the first video, one of the first videos talking about the difference between tense, and the word tense means time. And indicative and versus moods. Both the subjunctive and indicative are moods. Now, here's the definition. The mood of a verb indicates the way a person expresses an action or a state. English and Spanish, depending on what you call a mood, right? Because generally speaking, there are 3 moods, but some people count 5 moods. But the 2 most important, well, in English, the most important is the indicative. And I think the command, the imperative. In Spanish, it's the indicative, most definitely the subjunctive, and the imperative. If the action is a statement of a realized fact, regardless of the tense, so it can be the present indicative, it can be the present progressive, it can be the future progressive, it can be the present perfect, it can be the conditional, it can be the conditional perfect progressive. It doesn't matter the tense. If what you are expressing is a realized fact, if it's objective, it is the indicative mood. The essential function of the indicative mood is to state an objective fact, as opposed to stating a possibility, a hope, a wish, a demand, a command, or a conditional action. So here we go. A mood, the indicative, is a statement of a realized fact. A mood does not mean a tense. The essential function of the indicative mood is to state an objective fact. So what is, the sun rises every morning, right? But that's different than, I hope that the sun rises, rise every morning, because I'm using it in the true subjunctive in English. But most people would say, I hope that the sun rises every morning. Okay. One is stating a fact. The sun rises every morning. That's a fact. But let's say for whatever reason, I'm scared that from one day to the next, the sun will stay where it stays, or the earth will stay where it stays, and we won't see the sun. So I'm not giving an objective fact when I say, I hope. In Spanish, a lot of times you say, ojalá, espero que, right? I hope that the sun rise every morning. Now I said rise because that's the true subjunctive, but reality is most people would say, I hope that the sun rises. They will not put it in the subjunctive. They'll put it in the indicative structure. Okay. The indicative, the following card contains examples of sentences in the indicative mood. Mary is an American. Mary has $5. Mary studies in the university. I'm only telling you about Mary. I'm not telling you what I want Mary to do. I'm not telling you what I'm commanding Mary to do. I'm not telling you what I hope Mary will do. I'm not telling you what I wish. I'm just telling you about Mary. So you have these set of facts. Mary's an American. Mary has $5. Mary studies in the university. Mary lives in Mexico. I saw Mary as soon as she arrived. So therefore, I saw Mary as soon as she had arrived. I should put, but in English you can put arrived or had arrived. Okay. All of the above sentences are facts about Mary. Therefore, in English and in Spanish, all of the above sentences are in the indicative mood, because I'm just giving you facts about Mary, or facts about when I saw Mary. If the action is a statement of one's hopes, one's wishes, one's desires, one's doubts, one's requests, fears, regrets, joys, suppositions, or anything of the kind, the verb is in the subjunctive mood. Now, what is a subjunctive mood? When do you use it? The essential function of the subjunctive is to express hypothesis and subjectivity. It focuses on what is imagined, exhorted, demanded, wished, or proposed. Now, here's the question. How many of us, when we're speaking, do that? How many of us just basically limit our conversation to the indicative mood versus expressing hypothesis and hypothesis and subjectivity? How many of us, when we're speaking, talk about what is imagined, exhorted, or demanded, or wished, or proposed? I argue not very much. A lot of us have not been trained to think like that. Okay. So let's look at those same sentences about Mary, but now let's look at Mary in the subjunctive. Mary wants you to become an American. Now, the way that I have it structured, you really can't see the subjunctive, but to become is subjunctive. But the way it's structured, it's in the infinitive rather than the simple form. Let me structure it the way you would structure it in Spanish. It sounds a little bit funny because we don't structure it that way. Okay, Mary wants that you become an American. Mary wants, what does she want? She wants something from someone else. So what does Mary want? Mary wants that you become an American. If I were to say he, she, and it, look how, you can't really see it. It's invisible with the I, you, we, they. It's invisible because all it is, it's the verb without the to. It's only visible when you do he, she, and it because I don't add the S. So Mary wants that her mother become an American. Now, if I were to structure it as if it were the indicative, I would say Mary wants that her mother becomes an American. But at one time in English, that would have been very wrong. That would have been on one of those SATs, GRE exams, and it would be wrong. Now, since there's no Academy of the English Language, I don't think it's not, if it's considered wrong. If I see it in one of my students' essays, I'll point it out and I'll tell the student, but you have to be very careful using it. Because otherwise, if you go to another English teacher who does not either know the subjunctive or doesn't use a subjunctive or whatever, they'll mark you wrong if you don't put the S. All right. Mary hopes. Okay, so we're not talking about an objective fact here. We're talking about a desire. Mary hopes that hopes that you to give her $5, or hopes that you will give her $5. Once again, it's not structured the way it's structured in Spanish so that the subjunctive is clear. Well, it wouldn't be clear anyway because I only have the you, but let's do it so that it's clear. Mary hopes that her father give her $5. But that sounds so weird in English. But that's how it would be in Spanish, because she wants her pops to give her $5. So we're not talking about an objective sentence. Mary's father gives her $5. That's objective fact. But now we're talking about what Mary wants her father to do. Mary prefers, so let's put it in the way it would be in Spanish, that, and I'm going to use he, she, or it versus you so it becomes clear. Mary prefers that her child live in Mexico, rather than Mary prefers that her child lives in Mexico. Because she's talking about not an objective fact, but what Mary prefers or wants or hopes for. Mary will see you as soon as you arrive, but you're not here yet. So that arrive would be in Spanish, would be the subjunctive. So Mary will see you as soon as John arrive. Because if I put it in the he, she, and it, it's clear that it's a subjunctive, but to a lot of people, it will look wrong. Mary will see you when John arrive. Don't worry if you don't get it right away. The first shot has been made, because I'm telling you about a mood that's very important. You'll begin to recognize it and pick it up. Let me tell you, it is used a lot in language. It's a lot in poetry, a lot in songs, in movies, everywhere. It's used everywhere. When English, it is used, but you don't recognize it because it's invisible. Okay. So here it is in Spanish. Quiere María or Mary que llegues a ser, o que llegues, o quiere que seas. Llegues and seas is the subjunctive for either the verb llegar a ser, which means to become, or seas, which is the subjunctive of the verb ser. So quiere María, or quiere Mary que llegues a ser, or quiere Mary, que seas. Espera, María, Mary, que le des. Des is the subjunctive of the verb dar. Right? Des. And the lay is to give her or to give him. Prefiere Mary que vivas, not vives, vivas in Mexico. So Mary prefers that you live in Mexico. Okay. Now, when I'm using the subjunctive, there's two clauses. There's the independent clause. That's the verb in which you're saying that you hope, that you want, that you wish, that you whatever. Then there's the que. This is not always true. This is in general. Then there's the que. And then the dependent clause in which you use the subjunctive form. You only use a subjunctive in this type of structure if you're talking about what one person wants or hopes or is waiting for or whatever from another person, not from oneself, but from another person. Mary va a verte cuando llegues. That's a different kind of subjunctive, and we'll talk about it because in English, it's in the present. Mary's going to see you when you arrive, but you haven't arrived yet. And that is also the subjunctive. It's a little bit different. We'll talk about it. In all of the above sentences, the verbs in the dependent clause are in the subjunctive. Okay, I think I'm running a little bit long. We're going to continue because I have a lot of verbs and a lot of different explanations for the subjunctive. So we'll continue in the next video. I'm trying to be as clear as possible. If you don't understand, don't worry about it, okay? If you understand me, but you don't understand what I'm talking about, kinda, because it doesn't make that much sense because you're not used to thinking about English like that, don't worry about it. If you are dedicated and you want to learn Spanish, believe me, if you want to learn Spanish and you want to understand what you're saying, eventually after coming from this subjunctive from this side or that side or from up or from down, from all around, you'll get it. It just takes time, right? And if you have the possibility of living in a Spanish-speaking country, even if it's for a week, for a month, for 6 months, for a year, for whatever period of time, take it. You will learn in that week or month or 6 months or a year what 10, 20 years of classroom Spanish would give you. There's nothing like living in the country, especially if you force yourself not to hang with or not to be with English speakers. There is nothing like it. One day, if I can, especially if I'm able to live off of my own income, because people come to my website or my pages or whatever on my YouTube, and therefore I can work anywhere and I can make cards from any place. I hope to go to France and just be outside, be inside, and just listen to it. And although I know my accent will not be the best because I'm learning it at a very advanced age, I hope to be able to understand it. And I really hope to be able to speak it a little bit. So this is Coralla Fickler McLean. Welcome, WYLCONE.com. Thank you. I wish you a good day. I'm going to stop sharing now. And I wish you a good day. Bye-bye.